All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the quarterfinals of Grand Prix Vancouver here in British Columbia. It's Canada, and we are ready to rock and roll with Aeo Paquette of Canada against Jeremy Dezani of France, the former Player of the Year, who is now back on the Pro Tour train, Randy, by becoming silver as a result of his last two rounds. He has made it back in. We begin with a Stoneforge Acolyte straight out of the gates for Aeo Paquette.
Yeah, I know there was
Canada.
some speculation during the draft. Aeo Paquette is running both his Stoneforge Acolytes. He's running both his Chitinous Cloaks?
Chitinous.
Chitinous Cloaks.
Let's go with that.
And his Bonesaw. So there's 3 equipment in his deck. There's also 2 Stoneforge Acolytes. Yeah, I mean, I think the Acolyte also, like, it's a 1-drop that you can curve out with support creatures. Maybe that's part of the plan. Does not sound like Aeo was in love with his deck. He says, the deck is not good. I had a bad draft. He got some nice cards, Woodland Wanderer, Oblivion Strike, Sheer Drop, but, you know, deck's pulling in a couple of different directions. He did wind up playing it 3-color, so it's base green-white with a black splash is where he landed. The black splash for Oblivion Strike, Vampire Envoy, Eiley, and Baloth Null.
So pretty significant splash then. 4 cards.
Yeah, 2 swamps, and he can get them with, he's got a Pilgrim's Eye and a Lone Larva to kind of go find them when he really needs them.
So Jeremy has turned his McKindy Aeronaut sideways. It's 1/3, it flies, and it is an ally, which is important.
Yeah, we were speculating at various points during the draft as to whether Jeremy was going to be 3-color.
Right.
He landed on 2, so he is just red-white. He said, you know, Melissa DeToro was talking to him after he built, and he took those 2 early Vampire Envoys. He described black as hard to give up, but white was super open. His verdict on his deck, it's not great, but it's more than okay. So Jeremy thinks his deck is decent. Aeo thinks his deck is bad. I know that the chat, as they were watching, I was kind of reading along a little bit, seemed to have the opposite conclusion. They seem to like where Aeo wound up a little better than Jeremy.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens here.
Allied Reinforcements, a pair of 2/2s. Missing land drops from Aeo is not going to give us a clean read on who actually has the better deck here. Nobody can compete well on 2 lands and a Stoneforge Acolyte. Yeah, he's actually in discard mode already. The Lone Larva, they can go find the land too. Ironic.
Jeremy Dezani, the 8 seed here. Aeo Paquette, the 3 seed. Not super significant, other than very particularly you choose whether to play or draw if you are the higher seed.
Yeah, and it's not a straightforward bracket. I know that's sometimes confusing to people. In constructed Grand Prix, it's just the normal bracket math you're used to. 1 plays 8, 2 plays 7, etc. In limited, they want to randomize the order in which people sit around the table. So it's completely random who sits where, and then you play across, like normally for a draft.
4 rounds, yes.
And the only thing the seeds do is tell you play draw.
For 5 mana, that's pretty efficient.
Indeed.
As we see a second Allied Reinforcements, 2 more 2/2s, and an Expedition Envoy. That's 6 power spread across 3 creatures. 5 mana, 1 turn. Well done, Jeremy.
And Aeo putting on a clinic in why 1/2 creatures are not actually worth a card. All that 1/2 was good for was scooping up his other cards.
Oh, my word. So that one is over, and it seems likely that something else may potentially be over. Let's have a word with Brian David Marshall. BDM, what do you got?
Congratulations to Grand Prix Mexico City champion
Yes?
Fabrizio and Terry.
Wow. Fabrizio does it again without Hangerback Walker. Whenever he has Hangerback Walker, he 9-0s day 1 and goes on to a great run. Multiple Grand Prix titles for Fabrizio and Terry. Great job.
Three game set against Tomohiro Saito in the finals. We'll get a little more details about how things played out in the bracket as we move through the top 8.
Yeah, we certainly want to find out what deck actually won, what Fabrizio's deck list was. So we'll get on to that. Fantastic stuff, and that sounds like an amazing final. Thanks very much to BDM. BDM here in Vancouver is going to be watching our off-camera matches, giving us a good sense of what's going on elsewhere. We're already into our second of 4 quarterfinals. This is Gabe Carlton-Barnes against Eric Severson.
Oh, it's another ally deck.
Okay, so we've got Core Scythe Master and already 4 counters awoken from Ondu Rising.
Yeah, GCB has the black-white version that everyone wants to get.
And for Severson, well, he's got a Brood Hunter Worm in the graveyard. That's not normally the zone that's in. That's normally in the sideboard.
Well, I think Sheer Drop had some, or Ondu Rising? Ondu Rising.
Right, but just it's surprised to see Brood Hunter Worm in a deck.
Look, the red-green beatdown deck it's a curve-out deck.
Okay. It wants a certain number of 4s. Fair enough.
Like, I'm not willing to say Broodhunter Worm is good.
Oh, that's a relief.
I will say it's better.
Fine. Okay.
It's better in curve-out world. Yeah, green-red with just a touch of blue for Eric. Yeah, this is kind of the landfall deck a little bit.
Reckless
R&D
Bushwhacker.
scripted.
And in we come. Because whether you pay it Surge or not, it does have haste. And yes, you can see the curve of Snapping Gnarlid 2, Netcaster Spider 3, that Broodhunter Worm 4, to Tajiri Pathwarden 5. Now here's hasty Reckless Bushwhacker. Gabe is going to put the Scythe Master in the way and trade off for the Snapping Gnarlid. But Severson's board is very good right now. Gabe gets to untap with that 4/4. But he is at 4 life.
Eric Severson already has earned himself a spot at next week's Pro Tour. He'll be on the Team East-West Bowl. Kind of the Target guys and the Cali guys teaming up. Red-green, the blue is for Exert Influence. Says green was definitely open, but the cards weren't good enough for the payoff. Maybe I shouldn't have been in red. The key pick of his draft was pick 4 when he took Seed Guardian over Isolation Zone.
All right.
GCB says blue was open, but he couldn't figure out how to get in. He wished he drafted a Waste because he saw an Evolving Wilds last pack. Spatial Contortion, but with only 3 ways to cast it. White-black allies, quote, it can win. Ah, he's where the General Tarzi landed.
Tazri, yeah.
Tazri. That's why he went white. He got it 3rd pick. But the best thing to search for is Malakir Soothsayer.
I mean, that let's not pretend that's a terrible thing.
Yeah,
Here's a 4/4 that draws you cards repeatedly for the low bargain price of 1 life. So Severson very much ahead here now and is smashing in with Pathwarden and Netcaster Spider and Reckless Bushwhacker. 4/4 looking to trade on the 5/4. 2/3 Netcaster gets through. 2/1 destroys 0/1. I think we're well in hand for Severson here by the looks of things. But now more so than ever, because there's Grove Rumbler. Gabe will sacrifice his Evolving Wilds for a Plains. Let's just stay here one more turn because this should be the last turn of the game. Our first match is underway in Game 2. We'll be there in just a moment once we see whether Gabe has a planar outburst, shall we say, from the top of the deck. So let's take a look at that. And GCB says no, so let's go back to our main match, which is underway in the quarterfinals. Severson leads Gabe Carlton Barnes by 1-0. And we are back underway in Jeremy Dezani against Aeo Paquette.
Jeremy's ally deck, of course, with Feldarkov curving into Kozilek Sentinel.
Fabulous. Against Pilgrim's Eye. So Aeo Paquette is at least in business with the multiple colors.
Yeah, Dezani drawing from the bottom half dozen cards in his deck. For sure.
Aeo sitting there with Oath of Gideon, sitting there with Oblivion Strike, sitting there with Jiraga Auxiliary. And that's what's up next. One day, that will grow up to be a support network with 6 mana as the activation to support 2.
Feels like if Aeo can't beat this start, though, then you got to give the draft medal to Jeremy.
Yeah, Raf Levy was coming in to support Jeremy, teammate on Team Revolution for the Pro Tour next week. And he said, when Jeremy got to the last 2 rounds here, if he won his penultimate round, that would guarantee him the silver invite for Madrid.
Okay.
Because he's obviously playing next week in Atlanta, but then that would be it. So we get a silver invite for Madrid.
Yeah, he's
if
only
he wins
silver
again,
coming into this year, huh?
If he wins again, which he did, to get into the top 8, that guaranteed the points that mean he would now chain up. He's now in business for the season.
Sure.
So we'll see him in Atlanta, we'll see him in Madrid, we'll see him in Sydney to close out the year. So already a huge, huge day at the office for Jeremy Dezani.
Player of the year down to silver. It was just a bad year for him last year.
It really was.
What's your theory? What happened to him last year? Why did the wheels come off?
He just started looking elsewhere. He was playing other things.
Okay.
Sitting in front of a computer,
This
but
Magic
not with
game's
Magic
easy.
Online. I don't think it was particularly
Short
hubristic.
strike.
Yep.
That's a big game.
Yeah,
Felidar Cub gonna beat up Jiraga Auxiliary.
5 power Felidar Cub.
So just kind of took his eye off the ball a little bit.
Yeah, and consciously, to an extent, he wanted to see whether he had what it took in an online game.
Okay.
He's. And I think what he found there, I had a conversation with him. He said, "Well, the thing is, I got to the top 2%, which is great, but it's
not good
meaningless."
enough. Yeah.
And so he's back. And the thing is, other players before him as players of the year have struggled immediately after. Brad Nelson's obviously a very notable someone who found it very tough after that stellar year. And part of that is variance, and part of that is, just it is super, super hard. So Otha Gideon comes out with 2 allies for Paquette to join his Pilgrim's Eye. You could argue that right now Felidar Cub's the most powerful card on the battlefield. Didn't expect to say that in the top 8 this weekend. Although I did think Felidar Cub had gone up in value significantly.
Look, you can blow up an Otha Gideon right now. Whenever it wants.
Right now. So there you see Jeremy, the player of the year from a couple of seasons back. Went head-to-head with Reed Duke, essentially, in the final Pro Tour of the year. One of them was almost certain to get there, barring all kinds of miracles. And it was Dezani who took it, in the end, pretty dominatingly in the final Pro Tour of the year. Paquette, staying hydrated, will just pop home to his own bed. That is something he likes a lot. There you see French Hall of Famer Raph Levy in the background, and we had a great look at the precise wording on something. Jeremy lays land number 5. And here comes the Raptor, the 2-2 for 5. It's going to support 2, so Felidar Cub gets bigger, Kozilek Sentinel gets bigger, and that means they can smash because there's just 2 1-1s on Paquette's side of the board. Elsewhere, Alan Sun is facing Adam Jansen, Nick Slind is up against Chris Hewitt, and Eric Severson, Gabe Carlton Barnes. They're the other 3 quarterfinals here at Grand Prix Vancouver.
Aeo Paquette is exactly 30 years old. I was speculating. He was definitely a teenager when he was making those Pro Tour top 8s, 12 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
A personal trainer.
Oh, wow. I could use one of those.
Jeremy, 25, professional Magic player. He has 9 Grand Prix top 8s.
Yes, he does.
That's a lot of Grand Prix top 8s. That's
Right.
10 now, right?
And
That's 9 coming in.
And it's not from an awful lot of starts.
Right.
He has one of the best win percentages at GPs of anyone in the world. And we're lucky enough on the European circuit. We see a lot of him, and he is just better than the overwhelming majority of the people he plays against. That doesn't mean he beats them all, but he is great. He's a tremendous player. And it's good to see him back at or near the kind of level that we've seen from him in the past. Nick Slind and Chris Hewitt in the background there. We'll get them under the lights if we can, if we get a space for them. One of them we'll see for sure. in the semis. Interesting. Paquette, 18-12 down, is sending all three creatures in.
Jeremy doesn't even think about blocking.
No. Oblivion Strike the Felidar Cub.
Kill the oath. What does this do?
Let me-
Is it
let me
good
just
for
check.
me to kill it?
Do I want to do this? Well, I mean, part of the answer is if
Could
you
get
know
replayed.
it. Right. If it can't do anything, then potentially it could come back at some point.
Right. He doesn't know that
But-
Aeo has no planeswalkers, though.
Right. Yeah, so you kill it, but... No, he does know that because they saw the pics.
Did they?
Yes. Yeah, everyone here was shown because let's face it, Jeremy Dezani and Aeo Paquette were both doing us a favor and everyone at home
Sure.
by saying, "Of course, you can see me pick every card." And
Yeah,
it's
the
pretty-
judges basically have to decide, are they going to sequester the players so that it's impossible for them to get information from the stream?
Right.
Or are they just going to show deck
Yeah.
lists?
And so what they've done is a halfway house. They don't show the deck lists, so you don't know the 22 or 23
sure.
cards,
So you know the pool.
but they show you the pool. So at that point, we do know. Jeremy is aware that Aeo Paquette does not have a planeswalker.
But I guess he also knows there's no way to regrowth and replay the oath.
Yes. So just check what it does, and then, yeah, let's put it in the bin. Spark Mage's Gambit.
Oh, Spark Mage's Gambit.
Okay, that's the first time I've seen that be good on camera this weekend. Chitinous Cloak,
Ha!
equip. Let me have a little look at that.
Big.
The first game is now done in the quarterfinal between top seed Alan Sun and Adam Jansen, and it is Alan Sun, the top seed, who leads by 1-0 in that one. We'll see if we get a chance to take a look at that, if they're still going later on. But right now we're focusing on the former Player of the Year, Jeremy Dezani, in his 10th Grand Prix top 8, up against someone in his first, Aeo Paquette, but with a ton of experience, including 2 Pro Tour top 8s, both in 2004, Amsterdam, and then the World Championship, where he finished second to an even younger teenager, the Netherlands, Julian Naughton, who at the time was only 14.
I think he was 15.
15,
I
14,
always have
15. Astral Slide. I have a feeling wasn't
Sounds right.
wasn't that in the top 8 there? Those decks were good. Speaking of good decks, Modern next week. Can't wait for the Pro Tour.
Yeah, that's going to be fun.
This time, Expedition Envoy didn't come at the end of a 5-mana turn that also spat out 2 other allies. This time it's just, I've got 6 mana. I'm going to spend 1 of it on a 2/1 with no ability.
And that Kozilek Sentinel is actually earning its spot in the deck this game.
It really is.
It's 2/5, and it's holding things off.
This is double cloak. When it get hot under there. +2/+2, menace.
Yeah, the menace part.
Menace, menace. Really menace.
What does double menace do exactly?
Nothing. And not just because
Two
of
pieces
isolation
of equipment and only a single token creature, which is now gone forever.
Dink.
Second land off the top for Aeo Paquette. This deck has
God.
not worked out.
And he is at 6. Which means he's at 2 or
Yep.
maybe 1. He's at 2.
Well, Aeo Paquette, we will see him in Madrid. I think the run may be over for the hometown hero. But he's back on the Pro Tour now. First time in quite some time.
Spawnbinder Mage. Make it sure. Obviously, he doesn't want to spend the mana because some kind of bluff, but...
Right. He has to bluff something because the
In
Alpha
we
Strike
come.
is in fact lethal.
And that's game, set, and match. And Jeremy Dezani, the Player of the Year, with a deck we didn't think was very good, and we're not wrong, has advanced to the semi-finals of Grand Prix Vancouver by 2-0 over Aeo Paquette.
Yeah, shrug and a smile from Aeo. Seemed like pretty much exactly the right sentiment there.
All right.
And, you know, Jeremy's deck may not be great, but I do think it came together a little better than Ao's. I mean, Ao's draws were miserable, but his deck did look a little clunky. I mean, three pieces of kind of mediocre equipment, a couple of 1-2s to go get them. Didn't really come together well enough.
No, and there were signs in Jeremy's deck that turn of the Expedition Envoy, Allied Reinforcements and Expedition Envoy. That's a legitimate turn. That's fine. That is actually going to put some pressure on things.
Yeah, and his quote-unquote bad cards are like, oh, here's a 2-mana 1/4 that doesn't have any particular synergy, but it's still 5 points worth of stats for 2.
Yeah.
Picks up a +1/+1 counter just fine.
So right now we're heading up for this quarterfinal, which is
Game
Eric
3.
Severson against Gabe Carlton-Barnes. And we will see who can get the job done, who will advance. The winner here will face Jeremy Dezani in the semi-finals. Gabe, looking at a hand, they're both so still, trying to work out whether they want to keep. Here we go. Eric Severson begins with a mountain. Gabe Carlton-Barnes, his first play, it's a plains. Back we go.
Severson, 23 years old.
2 mountains becomes Eldrazi Mimic.
A mathematician in training.
Learning to count.
I assume that means probably grad student. He's from Berkeley.
Right. Oh, okay. Hedron Crawler for Gabe Carlton-Barnes.
Previous Magic accomplishment. First place, Pro Tour Battle for Zendikar, day 1.
Nice. Scion Summoner. And Severson curving out nice and presentably so far. Mimic into Summoner. Carlton-Barnes has acceleration in the form of the 0/1 Hedron Crawler. Got a Gideon's Reproach there. Also got that General Tazri that was so instrumental in the draft of future and past of Jeremy Dezani, who took press into service over the General. Gabe got General Tazri pick 3, and that's what moved him into white. You get a good look there. There's an unnatural endurance in Gabe Carlton-Barnes' hand as well, which he could fire off here if he wanted. Does he want to take something out with an unnatural endurance?
I mean, yes. The only question is whether Severson has an answer. Right, he exposes himself to a 2-for-1 if Severson has the ability to kill his creature's response. But I don't think he just wants to take damage, so.
So there's the block.
And he reaches for the creature as if to pick it up and put it in the graveyard.
So
No tells.
unnatural
but
endurance.
gets away with it. Yeah, he's able to trade the 1-mana trick for the 2/2 creature.
And now here's a Rumble, Rumble, Rumble. 3/3 trample.
GCB, 36 years old. He is a software developer when he's not playing Magic. Portland.
Yeah. Draft PDX, the team that he kind of at least spiritually leads.
Oh, yeah.
I think they're pretty democratic, but he's very much the prime mover in that.
Sounds right. 12 Pro Tour Day 2s. We'd heard the 12 PTQ wins. Is the way I heard the story. But yeah, 12 Day 2s it's a lot of Pro Tour Magic. His other previous Magic accomplishment he lists as once beat a pack rat in Limited.
You can't believe everything you read, Randy. Here's General Tazri. So, if memory serves, we're going to go and get a Malakir Soothsayer here.
Yeah, seems pretty good.
4/4 for 5, 4 in a black.
Yeah, this looks great. How do you...
How do you?
I still don't understand Dezani's first pick.
How do you not press her into service?
Yeah,
and
how
just
is this
go,
better?
come on, General Tazri, you can do this for me, and take you first, and go away we go.
I mean, I like press
With
into
the
service. Card's good. Card's fine.
Is it like
This seems better.
Ignore General Tazri. Is press into service? Do you see that as a first pick card generally?
I mean, no. You
Right.
can first pick
Well,
it.
of course, but
No.
It just seemed a really surprising pick at the time, and nothing's changed since.
I don't know. Is the rainbow ability distracting? Like ally creatures you control get +X, where X is the number of colors among those creatures. Like, you're never activating that. Does that just become distracting? Like, it's a mythic rare. Jeremy's probably never played with it. He's read it in a spoiler. Maybe you get distracted by the fact that you're never going to turn on that ability, and you lose sight of the fact that anytime an ally comes into play, when Tazri comes into play, even I got it wrong. When Tazri comes into play, search for an ally, put it in your hand, and shuffle. So just go get your best ally. Not repeatably. You're not going to activate the repeatably thing.
Good plus better. Here's Brood Hunter Worm for Severson. And again, Severson is very much getting aggressive, as you do with a Grove Rumbler. It's not a jilting wallflower. Gabe Carlton Barnes will be looking for the turn when the Grove Rumbler isn't a 5/5, so that Gideon's Reproach can do something useful. But at that point, probably it isn't going to be attacking.
Dezani may have done GCB the favor of passing him what was actually a third pick, Tazri. Didn't do him any favors after that by hoovering up all the white allies that came later.
No.
I mean, there's just somebody on the other side of the table that's going to win the Grand Prix with a colorless deck.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I mean, let's not forget that the two players who didn't have to play round 15 because they were already that good, thanks, were Alan Sun and Nick Slind. We haven't heard a lot from them yet or about their quarterfinals at this stage. They're still grinding away in the feature match area. So be interested to see what they've come up with. So land comes back. This is nice and synergistic with Grove Rumbler. Devouring Flames. Take out the general.
Yeah, even after that comes into play ability had done its thing, Tazri was still the creature that Severson wanted to remove.
So Severson piling on the pressure. Ondu War Cleric and Core Sky Climber. That is a cohort combo for 2 life a turn.
You are so dedicated Magic players. Thanks for guttering out to the end. The prize wall is in its final stages of getting shut down. If you need anything that is not booster packs, again, if you need...
Gideon's Reproach. Let's take out your 4/3, please.
Please come see us right now.
And then I'm going to take lots. Gabe Carlton Barnes, not necessarily on his last legs, but struggling. What does Severson follow up with? Nothing. Well, that is good news for GCB, but he's 17-4 behind. Malekith Soothsayer, unless it can properly stabilize with that Ondu War Cleric, doesn't have a lot of draw steps in it at 1 life per pop.
4/4 though, right?
That's the important bit, sure.
Yeah.
He needs more than that, though, to deal with the Grove Rumbler.
Your attention, please. We would like to see Mr. Matt Solos.
Always assuming Severson can keep finding land. It's a really lovely moment happening just off camera that we don't have a chance to show you, but there's a group from Calgary called Team Badgers who've been here all weekend long, and they have just been so excited to see so many great players. And here they are, still going at the end of the weekend. They've had a ton of fun. I don't think they've done a ton of winning, but they've done some, and they've met so many people that they've been thrilled to see. We've just seen them taking a pose with Jeremy Dezani and Raf Levy. And, you know, that's a memory that, 5 years from now when they're much better players and they're going all over the world and they're going, do you know, I remember going to Vancouver in 2016 and hanging out with all those great pros. And the pros are very, very gracious as well. Always, you know,
Yep.
they're always going to say, yes, I do have time to chat with you. And
True.
It's good stuff. They're good ambassadors for the game. And
Broodhunter Worm comes back.
yay.
Severson says, I need more Broodhunter Worms in my life.
So 23-4 now.
Let's get the island for his blue splash.
And the Rumbler continues to rumble. Gabe in this horrible spot of being tapped out against 3 colors of mana, 7 mana available. He's going to gain himself 2 life.
Goes to 1.
Yeah. Here's the Brute Hunter Worm again. Last throws of the dice for Gabe Carlton Barnes. Tremendous run. Think it's over. Don't activate that Malakir Soothsayer right now.
Maybe you want to go out on your own terms.
That's a perfectly acceptable way to activate that right now. But I think Gabe knows he's been rumbled.
Yeah.
To the main stage, Matt Soros. To the main stage, please.
Alan Sun and Adam Jansen still going at it. Nick Slind, Chris Hewitt. They're the 2 quarterfinals. In the bottom half of the bracket, Jeremy Dezani is about to know that Eric Severson will be his opponent. Almost certainly.
Severson stood up from the table. Was that him running by on toward a restroom? Yeah, he just ran right by our table.
Okay. He comes back. There are no permanents on Gabe Carlton Bard's side of the board. There's a signed result slip, 2-1. And a little tumbleweed sound effect ripples across the battlefield. Conveniently enough, Randy, while we do not have live Magic to discuss, we do have the most excellent Brian David Marshall, who is joining us as we speak. And I imagine that Brian David Marshall has been watching some Magic in the top 8 area. BDM, what do you got for
So
us?
I've been watching Chris Hewitt play against Nick Slind. Chris Hewitt is playing blue-black deck, lots of colorless activations, blinding drones, gravity negators, etc. He was up against a bug deck from Nick Slind that had things like Reality Smasher and Deceiver Form and
Those are
other
good cards.
gigantic monsters that ultimately Nick Slind won the match, even though learned a little something interesting. Containment membrane on the Reality Smasher. And after the game, Nick's like, well, I guess you should have countered that. And he's like, well, the judge is like, no, it's actually a missed trigger. Doesn't
Wow.
so there was a missed, so just remember your Reality Smasher triggers, kids.
Wow.
So Nick Slind advances. He
Yes.
plays the winner of Alan Sun and Adam Jansen.
Alan's son is up a game last
Yep.
I looked.
Okay.
And Adam Jansen, though, has a pretty sweet deck with Jorian. And,
A Ruin Diver,
Yeah,
yep.
the Ruin Diver. Red-blue, draws a lot of cards. Seemed like he was going to win game 1, but in the end, Red-White Beatdown did it for Alan's son.
Okay, great stuff. That's the match that we hope to bring you once this one is done, with GCB continuing to fight on. Hagra Sharpshooter is down. 5 creatures on board: Ondu War Cleric, Core Sky Climber, the Malakir Soothsayer that currently cannot activate, Hagra Sharpshooter, and Hedron Crawler. Severson is going to send a Brood Hunter Worm, which would be a trade for that Core Sky Climber.
Yup.
And then Gabe will go back up to 3. The grind, it begins. Severson out of gas. Is Gabe going to grind his way back from the absolute edge?
Maybe.
Lifespring Druid. Sure.
Draw a card? What do you think?
The thing is, I mean, that Hagra Sharpshooter, which Jeremy Dezani had an opportunity to take at one point when we were thinking whether the Black Splash was going to be real or not.
Pretty good on this board.
Right. Yep. Only the Grove Rumbler doesn't just die to that. He is going to draw a card. Went up to 3, falls back down to 2. Gets a card. Untaps. Severson's down to 1 card. It ain't never over till it's over. Calastria Healer in hand for Gabe Carlton Barnes. Eke my way to another life point.
He needs the 4th ally anyway if he wants to cohort twice.
Uh-huh. Ding.
5 untapped mana.
Put you to 22. Back we go to Severson. A lot of the action in this match is going to happen on Severson's turn for the next while. General Tazri is dead for Gabe Carlton Barnes, but she gave her life, given a little call out to the Malakir Soothsayer. And right now, the 4/4 is really keeping Gabe Carlton Barnes in this, because the 5/5 Grove Rumbler just isn't as big as it was. It isn't as dominating as it was. Okay. Severson with 1 card.
Smacks of desperation.
Yeah, I was going to say, he doesn't see things getting any better.
Yeah. It certainly smells like, and things aren't getting better, attack. But, I mean, Gabe is going to play around what he can play around, but, I mean, he's not going to... Certainly, he's run out of life total to play with. He's going to be blocking everybody that he doesn't kill. It's another one of those spots where do you want to activate your sharpshooter pre-combat and get some information? Or do you want to commit to some blocks? You know, in particular, maybe,
pre-blocking. Yeah.
you know, sorry, yeah, pre-blocks, tap Hedron Crawler, activate sharpshooter, maybe block first.
So the Rumbler gets blocked by the Soothsayer. And the War Cleric. Because maybe the concern here is like brute strength, something like that.
Sure.
Gabe has Ondu Rising in hand for a possible future turn. The Sharpshooter is going in front of the Mimic. Everything is blocked.
Yeah.
Gabe says, I'll do it like this. Ordering of the blockers is thus. So Malakir Soothsayer is first in line. So now there's a little theory that looked like a flicker of a lamb there. As Severson just checked. Because at this point, there's this little dance of Severson can say, I
Right.
pass, and then Gabe goes, well, I can activate the Sharpshooter, but if I do, then you get another chance to do something.
Right.
So maybe if you're passing, then I let myself pass, even though I have something I could be doing.
That said, I don't think he wants
Oh.
his Sharpshooter to die.
Right, so first things first,
Gain 2 life.
gain 2 life off the Ondu War Cleric. Second thing, let's lose a life and draw another card. He still has the 5 mana available for the Hagra Sharpshooter. Did the card that he drew change whether he wants to spend 5 on a Hagra Sharpshooter activation? Let's see. Severson again looks at that one card in hand. He was 23-1 ahead in this and looked all over the winner.
Yeah.
I'd
Kill
like-
the Mimic, keep the Sharpshooter.
That happens.
Yeah, and by going for it, Severson is able to trade the Druid for Colostri Healer, which is better than just having your Druid die to Sharpshooter, obviously. And he was able to get the Soothsayer off the board by trading it for
Yeah.
the Grove Rumbler.
So now we have a Hagra Sharpshooter active, a 2/2 War Cleric active because the Sharpshooter is also an ally. A Hedron Crawler maybe generating colorless, but just hanging out as a potential blocker. Just a Scion on the other side, 7 mana, almost certainly a land in hand. You would assume for Severson. I mean,
Yeah.
we know it is, but you have to assume that's all it can be. And now Gabe Carlton Barnes looking to see whether the advantage he gained out of General Tazri into Malakir Soothsayer can give him an unassailable board. His Warden of Geometries, 2/3 Vigilance, and taps for C mana, colorless mana, and his Core Sky Climber as well, which can go over the top. And
Yeah.
GCB,
Do you want to attack? Or do you want to gain 2 more life?
he's at 4 against a red deck.
Yeah.
The red
Attacks with the Sharpshooter, but he's got the
Right.
Sky Climber to cohort with War Cleric.
I'm fairly certain this is not something that will happen, but can you imagine at the end of Eric Severson's turn, Gabe Carlton Barnes goes, I'd like to cohort to gain 2 life. We get a response of a Consuming Sinkhole for 4 damage.
It's actually a good point. It may be that
I mean,
GCB
this-
is supposed to gain a life on his own turn. He's still got blockers for. He's got Warden to block a haste creature. I think you might actually be right.
But just, it's a theoretical
No, it's
way that
look,
Gabe
it's a
can
card in the
lose.
format.
Right.
I haven't really seen people playing it, but I mean, 4 mana, 4 to your face is a.
No, Michael
not-
Bond had a very aggressive black-red deck earlier this afternoon that
Okay.
didn't really pay off. We had
I
that on
wasn't in the
camera.
booth for that
No,
one.
it was with Marshall, and it wasn't a great advert for it because it stumbled. It was very aggressive, but it didn't come out that way.
Sure.
But he had not 1 but 2 Consuming Sinkholes in his main deck in that draft earlier today. Exert
Oh.
influence.
That's what the blue splash is for.
Can
It's
I
for
have
exert
your Core
influence?
Sky Climber?
Does he have the white splash to get it flying? He does not.
GCB draws spell, not land. 3 cards in hand. Hagra Sharpshooter still active. But now the core Sky Climber does could make parity if only Severson had white. The consolation for Severson is that if he does draw a couple of spells in his next 2 or 3 turns, there is a bit of time for them to potentially make a difference. The board is not overwhelmingly powerful for GCB right now.
Oh, yeah. True. Severson's going to chump with his Scion before it just dies to leftover mana plus Sharpshooter.
3 mana for core Scythemaster. The turn that is potentially going to be
Wow.
very bad news for Severson is when we see Ondu Rising.
Yeah, that's going to happen next turn.
Because now there are enough creatures on board that Ondu Rising, Awaken, 6 creatures attack, looking at gaining 3, 5, 9, 11, 13. Gabe Carlton Barnes is in the market for gaining 17 life next turn, which...
It's a lot.
Or hey, you know what? He might even... yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, 17 it would be. And he's currently responsible for everything on the board. Now we get the Relentless Hunter, 3/3. Severson leaves enough mana to turn it into a 4/4 Trampler.
Just forgot to gain 2 life. Or did he remember? Hey, he just didn't touch the creature. Looks like the life total went up.
Okay.
He said
That
it.
was the old look
I
at
couldn't
each
hear
other
him
and
from
go,
here.
2 life? Yeah.
Hard to hear him from here. Yeah, this is just Ondu Rising and turn them all sideways.
Does look that way. Five, 4 counts. I'm going to do all that, then I'm going to show you this Ondu Rising. You knew it was there. Gabe's just thinking, is there any reason not to just parley with everything? What could you possibly do to me here?
Block. That one first strikes. Yeah, I mean, just the blocks are... Yeah, the blocks are mostly trades. The question was, do you want to attack with your 2/2s when they can be blocked and picked off? And GCB decides no. He's content to gain 2 life from the Cleric rather than lose a 2/2 in order to get 4 life from those guys attacking.
Yeah, so Severson certainly has choices here for what he wants to take out. Like, you take 4 from the Awaken, 4 from the Zulaport Chain Mage, put the core Sky Climber in front of the Warden of Geometries and get rid of 2 of his creatures, potentially, although you can do the same with the Chain Mage.
Yeah, you'd rather trade for Chain Mage.
And then the Relentless Hunter can take out either the Warden or the 3/1, because then you just pump it up to 4/4.
He's got what? Only colorless mana? GCB? I think you try to
Yeah.
eat the Scythemaster. Well, he's going to make the slightly safer play of trying to eat Warden. Takes an extra point of damage, but fewer tricks beat him, I guess.
It also depends whether he has anything in hand, because if he goes up against the Scythemaster, he has to spend 3 mana to activate the Relentless Hunter to get it to the 4/4. Whereas as it is, he's
True.
straight eating the Warden.
Yeah, good point. All right, so 7 gets through. And it's a trade and Warden.
Five creatures to 1. 4/4, 3-1 first strike when it attacks. 2-2 that gives -1/-1. 2-2 that gains 2 life a turn. An Hedron Crawler. Up against a 3-3 Relentless Hunter, which is probably more relent than relentless at the moment. That is no 15-15 that has appeared.
Merely a vestige.
3-4.
Man, 21-11. Remember when it was 1-26?
I do.
It's like 10 minutes ago.
23, of course, now with that little end of turn action. Alan's son, last we heard, 1-0 up on Adam Jansen. Good deck for Jansen, but needs to be because he's 1-0 down. Just in front of us, Ralph Levy and Jeremy Dezani chat. Dezani comfortably relaxed, having achieved everything he wanted out of the weekend already in terms of Pro Tour invites, locked up for the rest of the season now. We'll see him in Atlanta. We'll see him in Madrid. We'll see him in Sydney.
Yeah, swing and a miss with Transgress the Mind there, but not really a miss in that Gabe got the knowledge he wanted. What is the card you're holding? Is it something I have to worry about? Is it something I have to play around? No.
But again, by going in with the 3-1.
No, it's different this time because there's Sharpshooter mana.
Right.
So Sharpshooter mana means that the 3-1 first striker can, in fact, beat up.
Yeah, even a 4-4
4/4.
Relentless Hunter. So instead, it's like, all right, which of these two would you like to kill for your 4-4?
He is going to pump, which doesn't do anything except deny a point, save a point of damage hitting to Vestige. Not relevant. Side Master's just going to keep turning sideways.
Eric has drawn a Hedron Crawler, I believe, which...
Well, that's what he had last turn.
Oh, okay. It looked like... Oh, okay.
GCP's played this game great.
In for 3. And again, first strike, such a great ability. Here's a Netcaster Spider.
All right.
2 life end of turn.
Gain 2 more.
Is that all right? 27? Thanks. And the number 4 seed, Gabe Colton Barnes, has completed has thus far made a remarkable comeback. Used what our life total master Neil Rigby refers to as all of his 19 bonus life. Life is a resource at its finest. It's now all the way back up to the lofty heights of 27.
A double block actually kills the Scythe Master, right?
5 power there.
Yeah.
Give that -1.
He's content with the trade.
Mm-hmm.
Now, though, he's whittled Severson down to a 2/3,
As a by the by,
which he can attack through
Yeah.
with 2/2s.
let's also remember that there are now 7 lands in play for Gabe Carlton Barnes, plus a Hedron Crawler. He's either drawing spells or lands. If they're lands and he gets to 10, no one said Hagra's Sharpshooter had to tap for its ability. You just have to have 5 mana. 2 5s to 10, and then things become next to impossible for Severson. Because it's not just the insta-kill.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, look, here's a Brood Monitor plus an assortment of chums. And
It'll take a little while to chew through all of those.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a really good draw a lot of the time. But it doesn't feel like it changes an awful lot as we see mana number 9 for GCB and pass. Didn't expect to be saying that Hagra Sharpshooter was going to do the business, and now maybe it isn't. Because Severson has finally found a spell that doesn't care particularly about the Hagra Sharpshooter. In fact, it cares especially about the Hagra Sharpshooter so much it wants it under a rock.
So this game was 1 to 20 what?
1 to 23. Now it's 25 to 5.
The other way. And we're still going. What a crazy game. Severson is legitimately on offense now.
Oh my lord.
GCB doesn't even have an ally to go with our War Cleric anymore.
Oh, it's been so good. Magic the Gathering. Nakana Assassin.
Wow.
We're back in business with the life gain.
Which can also trigger Death Touch in a pinch. You can block many of the things. I guess Brood Monitor can still attack.
Nakana Assassin.
Yeah, it's a
Death
trade.
Touch.
It's a trade. Which maybe that is what GCB wants to do. I mean, Brood Monitor should attack here. It's either getting through for damage or taking an assassin down with it.
Now here's a Stalking Drone. And now here's Hedron Crawler, which can
time.
activate the Stalking Drone.
Sharpshooter's gone. I now need a
Has.
repeatable source of colorless.
We've seen Malekith's Soothsayer draw, I think it was around about 3 cards from memory
2 or 3, yeah.
for GCB. There is a potential point, may already have happened, where Eric Severson is in the market of how many cards do you have left in your library? You can have as much life as you want.
Nah, I don't think that's how this game plays out.
All right.
I was just thinking about that Soothsayer, though. How good was the attack from Eric Severson? Like, as soon as he realized he was doomed to the Sharpshooter, he jammed all his creatures into the red zone. Gabe was still at a low enough life total that he was obliged to block and trade. Traded that Soothsayer off. And, you know, GCB was ahead a couple of cards at that point, a couple of permanents. But the game was still close enough that Severson could just draw his way out of it, which he's done. I mean, that attack, we said it smacked of desperation. And he had no trick. And he lost basically his whole board, but he took enough down with him that it opened this up. Now, GCB's drawn pretty dry, right? He's definitely flooded. He's drawn a couple more lands than Severson, and you know, his Sharpshooter eventually died, but Severson has played this game quite well.
That's not terrible for GCB because Eric Severson, I mean, it's to Drew Pathward, which does have Trample as well. But nonetheless, there is a chance to trade reasonably here for GCB because he can give Death Touch to his Slaughter Drone. And now Severson back on offense. 23-1 ahead. Then it was 25-5 the other way.
It got to 29.
29 in the end. Now it's back to 19-5. And Severson's back favorite again.
Wow.
This is a tremendous game of Magic. Let's hope it's not decided by Gabe just falling away to land. Like another twist to this tale. passes. It was Grove Rumbler that dominated phase 1 of this game. Then a succession of allies for Gabe Carlton Barnes, of which the Ondu Sky Cleric is the last one standing.
All right. GCB's tired of just taking it.
Block the Stalking Drone, give it Death Touch.
Yep. Well, wait, yeah. When Severson passes, GCB doesn't even need the Death Touch.
And then Severson passes. Four mana. 4. Retreat to Emeria.
Hello.
So a chance for some 1/1s. A chance for some boost at some point. Land, trigger landfall. Here. Have an ally. And who knows, maybe thus begins phase 4 of this game.
Now this board is back to more or less stable. I mean, even if Brood Monitor attacks and Gabe doesn't want to trade for it, he's gaining 2 life and taking 3. It's a lot of turns left at that rate. And Severson doesn't have the life gain. He's still sitting at 5.
I'm going to just press the rewind button for a moment and hear myself say, eh. There may be a point in this game where Eric Stevens starts to settle in and wonder how many cards are left in Gabe Carlton Barnes' library.
Now we're closing in on it.
However many life you have, I don't care.
Now we're closing in on it.
This is one of those moments where we are not going to ask the players how many cards are left in Gabe Carlton Barnes' library in case Eric Severson has not contemplated this. We are contemplating this.
Landfall trigger, though. What is it? 6 creatures on Eric's side.
To
Gabe
5
is now
on
at
GCB.
5?
Yes. The more off-camera Gabe Carlton Barnes gets on the board, the more likely he is to be able to win this.
11 lands in play, so how many more landfall triggers does he actually get? 6, probably?
Brood Monitor comes in. Ruins of Oran Reef from Eric Severson.
Gain 2, back up to 12. Land, make an ally. Maybe? Yes, yes.
You have to feel, bearing in mind that it is 20 past 9 at night here, and at 8:30 this morning, the players were walking in to get ready for their first draft at 9. The winner of this game right here is Jeremy Dezani. He has had like an hour and more to just relax, get a last bite to eat for the evening.
Relax and or scout.
He's not bothering to scout. He's just sitting and chatting and waiting for someone to win this. Alanson against Adam Jansen, still going.
Really?
Apparently. Nick Slind is through to Chris Hewitt, and he'll play the winner of Alanson, Adam Jansen.
Landfall trigger. More allies. 6 creatures plays 7. Still not enough.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 cards in the graveyard. 20, 24, 27, 29 by the time you add up the land. 30, 31, 32, 33 by the time you add up the creatures and the retreat to Emeria. The card in hand is 34.
So Gabe's got 6 cards left in his library.
Is my current best guess.
Sounds
for you.
about right. And you see him, he keeps picking up his graveyard and looking through it because he's trying to remember precisely what's in his deck.
Yes.
Like, what are the outs that he's playing for? Does he have a way to break through? Is he just trying to go wide and then get in one big
Well,
attack? That doesn't.
The thing is,
I
how
don't know
many
that
lands
he
he
has
playing?
time for that?
How many land is he? Because if he's like 17 or 18,
Probably 17.
Okay,
They took the deck list away to type it up. I can't look it up
all right.
exactly.
But at 17, he has 4 more triggers. That's 14 land he's got in play. So he has 3 more.
He hasn't played a spell since that retreat. Shouldn't he have spells left?
So here's a
Goblin
reckless
Bushwhacker.
bushwhacker, which is the least hasty, least aggressive bushwhacker there's been for a
Yeah,
while.
now Eric has officially settled in for the deck, I believe. He's going to look at the graveyard. What do you have left? What have I seen?
4.
4 cards.
4 cards left in the final game of this quarterfinal. It has taken 4 phases of swingy play, which is now teetering back the other way towards Severson. But Severson, if he has an ounce of imagination in his body, his heart must be pounding as this army, shoulder to shoulder. But hey, shoulder support. It says draw a card.
Yeah, it does.
It says lose a turn.
Yeah, but those counters are useful. And you'd rather have the card sooner rather than later.
Hope you're having as much fun at home watching this as we are. This is just amazing stuff.
Here's the card that he drew off shoulder to shoulder.
It's Oblivion Strike for
It
the
is
Tajuru
indeed.
Pathwarden. Now there are 6 blockers left for Eric Severson and 8 attackers currently. That's not enough with 3 cards left.
Okay, how many can he can attack multiple times though, right? It's not like the crackback is lethal.
No, sure.
Now the Pathwarden's dead.
Sure.
What is Severson's crackback for? Even if nothing died, it's still only for 9. GCB's at 18.
Uh-huh.
Now he's going to lose stuff if he attacks. That's the real problem. There's 2/3 and a 3/3.
And
They-
a
they
lot
each-
of ordinary.
The 2/3 and the 3/3 get to pick things off. Nothing else can block and survive. It's 4 of those 6 creatures are 1 toughness. So I mean, I think Gabe might be able to go for multiple attacks here. Has he played a land this turn? No, there's the land for the turn. And he's going for the +1 power trigger.
Right.
He's not interested in making an ally.
It's like, now I've got enough.
We watched Gabe do this yesterday, right? He played a feature match against Matt Costa that he won with like 2 cards left in his library. Do you remember that? Oh, it was insane.
No, I
Go
wasn't
back.
in that match.
Go back and watch that one. It was great. And
Yes.
yeah, Costa settled in for the deck, and Gabe calmly knew exactly what outs he was playing for, maneuvered the whole game to win. You talk about how the first 19 points of life were bonus. Whatever. You went with 3 cards left in your
First
library.
37 cards were bonus as well.
Doesn't matter
All
unless
of the resources.
getting his money's worth out of his deck. All right, so Spider wants to pick off an ally. Brood Monitor wants to pick off an ally. They will both survive those fights. Bushwhacker, trade, Hedron Crawler chumps a 2-power. Those Scions are chumping. Severson is looking to take 4, if I'm not mistaken.
Very briefly, Brian David Marshall, what do you got?
This is the last match in the feature match area. Adam Jansen, Jorian Ruin Diver wins 2-1.
Wow.
In the other remaining match.
Fantastic. Thanks very much to Brian David Marshall bringing us the news that Adam Jansen will face Nick Slind and Jeremy Dezani, we know, will face who?
I like GCB's chances. This is not a man that gets decked. This is a man that plays to his outs and figures out, knows exactly what's left in his library, what to play for. He got through for 4 damage this turn. I'm pretty sure Severson's at 1.
He has 5 creatures.
It's now
to
5
2.
plays 2. Every one of those creatures is lethal. 3 cards left in GCB's. Oh, Ruin Processor! There's nothing exiled, is there? It's just a giant beast.
It is, he
Nothing
dies.
to process. That 5 life would have
And
been
he's
insane.
going to put the counter on
Sure.
and have 3 mana up.
2 spare creatures, though.
Gabe Carlton Barnes draws his third last card.
Yeah, land is fine. Spell is fine.
He's going to use 2 to spatial contortion
Wow.
away. Now it's 2 blockers, 5 attackers, 1 life.
Yeah, turn him sideways.
For one of the great comebacks of the ages, Gabe Carlton Barnes does it, and that is one of the great games of Magic.
I'm going to have to correct you. I think that was 2 of the great comebacks of Grand Prix Top 8 history. Both of them by Gabe Carlton Barnes.
What a truly, truly spectacular game of Magic by the pair of them. Eric Severson falls so narrowly, but Gabe Carlton Barnes advances to the semi-finals of Grand Prix Vancouver 2016.